Now, the last time the All-Star Game was in Hollywood was 1980. The #1 movie that summer was Empire Strikes Back, and the price of gas went over $1 for the first time in history. Getting the start in that game that night at Dodger Stadium, a flame-throwing strike machine named J.R Richard. That night was supposed to be the next step in a Hall of Fame career. Instead, it was the beginning of the end.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Keith Jackson, and we are delighted to be able to bring you tonight's All-Star Game from Dodger Stadium.
Warming up in the bullpen, J.R. Richard.
Hollywood is a place where star-making performances happen all the time. And at the 1980 All-Star Game here at Dodger Stadium, J.R. Richard appeared poised to be the latest.
The two-strike pitch to Fisk. Gone. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was a fastball at better than 100 miles an hour.
The most dominating right-handed pitcher I've ever seen.
For me, I don't know that there was ever a more intimidating pitcher than J.R Richard.
But Richard's star burned too quickly, leaving baseball fans wondering what might have been, and leaving Hollywood with yet another story of promise and stardom unfulfilled.
And it's one of the saddest things in the history of sports, because this guy was headed for the Hall of Fame.
How about that? Now, honestly, how often does any pitcher shut out the big red machine twice in a row?
Drafted #2 overall in 1969 out of Ruston, Louisiana, Richard used his 6'8" frame and thunderbolt for an arm to dominate and intimidate opponents.
At my best, I could throw it through a car wash and never get it wet.
From 1976 to 1980, he was one of the premier pitchers in the game, twice leading the league in strikeouts. In 1979, his 313 Ks were a team record that stood for 40 years. But the 1980 season was when it all came together. Before what would be his only All-Star appearance, Richard was 10-4 with an ERA under 2, the best start of his career.
I may have won almost 30 games that year.
And on the mound from the Houston Astros, J.R Richard.
Oh, that was a great night. I felt real good that day, real good. I didn't want to have to keep myself down because I did not want to overdo. The main thing I wanted to do was go out there and throw strikes. Didn't want to hurt anybody.
The only thing Richard hurt that July evening were feelings. With the sun setting, Richard brought the fire and brought it right to Mr. October's doorstep.
Well, it's power and power here as Reggie comes up. It's a moment like this that'll get your juices going.
Well, just knew that he was a power hitter, and it was power against power. But mine thinking that I'm still a better man.
3-1 coming. 3-2. Reggie didn't get cheated.
No, sir. That's what you say. Unbutton those top buttons and take a good swing. That's what you say?
That's what they say. 94 miles an hour.
That's getting it up there. That is really rushing it up there.
If I'm not mistaken, he asked John the bench. I know this is a family show, but he said, "What in the hell was that?" Because he had never seen anything like that before.
3-2 coming. Bench chases him. He's out.
He wanted to fake it for a minute, and he decided he couldn't.
In all, Richard threw 2 scoreless innings that July evening, but it would be his last moment in the sun. After leaving his next start with arm fatigue, Richard was working out at the Astrodome on July 30th when he suffered a stroke. In October, with the Astros facing the Phillies in the NLCS, Richard had recovered enough to throw out the first pitch. That first pitch would be his last at the Astrodome. After 1980, there were failed comeback attempts. Later, he was homeless before finding a job in construction and eventually becoming a minister at a Houston area church. But before he passed, J.R. Richard seemed to find peace within himself, with baseball, and his place in history.
Don't regret any of it. Life goes on. The sun keeps coming up in the morning. Life goes on. You get up and live, or you lay down and die. So it's up to you what you choose. It's your decision that you should make.